Parshas Pinchas is a wondrous parsha, and it's worth bringing out a few things. First of all, about Zimri and Cozbi. According to Gemara and according to many sources, this story is much more than, obviously, than the pshat that's written, although the pshat certainly happened and is certainly true. First of all, the Baal Turim brings out that Shlumiel, meaning Shlumiel ben Soishadai, the original head in the midbar of Shevet Shimon, has the same gematria as Zimri ben Salu. Zimri ben Salu is the gematria of Shlumiel, this Nasi. And we know that Rashi says about Zimri that he was not like Shlumiel ben Soishadai. The Gemara in Sanhedrin also brings out and discusses who he is. There's opinions, by the way, that he is Shaul ben Shimon, the Shaul, the son of Shimon, who's also the son of Dinah. And the Gemara brings down that Cozbi was not her name. Her name was Shvil Noi. And it brings out a pasuk where her name is Shvil Noi. And mentions that she's called Cozbi because she said, Cozbi Amzu, let this nation devour me. The Shem Yishmuel brings out that the souls of Shlumiel ben Soishadai and Shaul ben Shimon went into Zimri at this time because he was trying to purify Midian. And Zimri himself, he says, was a gilgul of Shechem. Cozbi is a gilgul of Dinah. And she wants to become part of this. And you see from the whole Maisa in the Gemara that there was something going on that was above any kind of physical thing. And was instead of any kind of physical reason. That this was about purifying Midian. The problem is it was rotzui without a proper order. It was running up to Hashem without doing a proper conversion and everything. Unlike Moshe Rabbeinu, who made sure that everything was according to Hashem's ways, Hashem's halacha. The Rebbe asked a question. How come the din, the actual halacha here is K'naim Pegin Bay? We know that a bezdin, all deaths have to be through a bezdin, and a bezdin that kills even 1 in 70 years, according to an opinion, is called a bloody bezdin. And and a bezdin even has power over night and day. So he says, because a person who's entered the covenant, he has Hashem walking with him. If the person's sinning, he's bringing, God forbid, Hashem into the sins. If he's doing mitzvahs, he's bringing out Hashem into the world. And to connect that in perfect unison with something that's just in the natural world, that's something with something that's not inside of the covenant and not part of the covenant, and bringing Hashem's holiness into something that's mundane, that is a bigger difference than making a mistake as to whether night is day or day is night. And therefore only somebody who serves Hashem above nature can bring a tikkun, could bring a remedy to this. You find another Shechem connection. It says that the people who passed away in the Magefa, Pinchas stopped the plague. There was so much confusion because of doing something to bring people of the covenant into a very mundane thing. That was enough, God forbid, to kill off the entire Bnei Yisrael. And Pinchas stopped the Magefa. And how many people died in the Magefa? 24,000. It's brought down that in Shechem also, after the city allowed for a rape of Shechem to Dinah, that 24,000 passed away, and Rabbi Akiva's students were 24,000. And it's not Pashut. These people from Shechem said, we converted, and they say, yeah, but you allowed a rape, yeah, but we converted, we in a way did tshuva, and still we were killed. So far, I'll give you another chance. They come down, they mess up in the Baal Pe'er. Yeah, but we wanted to purify Midian, we wanted to this, we wanted to that. Who could have stood the test? Fine, they come down again, and they Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. Now, they didn't have COVID for each other, which means they had great love for each other. There was Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva who says, but they didn't because they wanted to bring each one of them wanted to bring the other one to their opinion, and they knew that the other one is following Torah and trying to follow Torah, and is doing something that seems that is acceptable according to the Torah, and still they didn't have kavod for them because they didn't think it was the absolute best derech. So because of that, they certainly weren't in and of itself. That doesn't make them chayev misa if a person just doesn't have kavod for the other, but they should have known better as Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. And their lack of kavod for the other prevented them from being saved from the Ayin Hara, Chmal Tzlan, when there was 24,000 students. There was a tremendous Ayin Hara on the students of Rabbi Akiva, and most were not saved, except the 5. But the 24,000 who passed away were gilgulim of the same 24,000. Parshas Pinchas then includes all of the korbanos. Pinchas did something that was holy, that brings out Hashem's holy name. And on the korbanos it says, "Es korbani lachmi liyishai." And not just it says you should say to Bnei Yisrael, these are the korbanos that are my bread for my fire. V'ma'at Elohem zeho isha. And then it says again, and you should say to them, this is the fire offering to Hashem. And it says, by the way, it says reich nechayach, that this is a pleasing offering, and what's pleasing? That Hashem says and we do His will. But the Alter Rebbe says, why does it say v'amarta twice in the pasuk? V'amarta Elohem zeh korbani Aleim zeh korbani lachmi liyishai, and then v'amarta Elohem zeh isha. And he says, because of every mitzvah you have machshava dibur and maisa. You have the thoughts involved in the korbanos. When the korbanos are being offered, that the whole world belongs to Hashem, certain things that bring yiras Hashem, that brings to tshuva, seeing that some certain things, an animal might be an atonement for the person, so to see how serious a sin is. And then you have the dibur, that when we learn halacha, and when we learn the halacha, we're supposed to say it with our lips, so it's bringing the Torah out a little bit into action, but in a way of speech, but out into the physical, that at least our lips move. When we learn the Torah of the Eilah and say it, it's considered as if we brought an Eilah, and the same thing with the Shlamim, and the same thing with all other korbanos. And then you have the actual physical korban. And therefore, there's the thought and speech of the korban is one v'amarta, and the actual physical korban, which we don't have today, but the thought and speech and the good intentions connect with it, that's another v'amarta. And the Alter Rebbe says, why does it have to be specifically in the Beis HaMikdash? And we know that the idea of the korban is within the Mikdash inside of us, that a person has to bring their own nefesh bahamis. A person has a godly soul that wants to be connected with Hashem, but he comes into this world primarily to fix part of the world by fixing his own Yetzer Hara and fixing his own nefesh bahamis, fixing his own animal desires, fixing his body. And when he brings that to Hashem, all of a sudden the world in turn becomes more connected with Hashem. And a person does that by bringing that as a korban, by taking his desire and saying, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do what Hashem wants. Or I'm going to push myself more than I want to do something for Hashem. That ends up breaking the more animalistic desires and bringing out Hashem into the world. It also says, Es Korbani. And the Alter Rebbe says here that Es Korbani means the letters from Aleph till Sov, which means that when a person learns Torah, they're being mevatah themselves, they're nullifying themselves to Hashem's Torah. And therefore, they are bringing out Hashem into the world. They're nullifying themselves and saying whatever Hashem wants, that's what's going to come out. And also, whenever a person says words of Torah, Hashem reads and says the words of Torah to him. And there's a maimer from the Rebbe saying that's part of that original voice, Anochi, that voice keeps on going because it's higher than time and it's higher than any makim. And therefore, it's that voice, inside of that voice, is the voice that's answering the person while he's reading Torah. Inside of that Dibur Anochi is the voice that Hashem answers us whenever we say Torah. And then why does it need to be physically in the Beis HaMikdash? Is the spiritual thing can be done in the Beis HaMikdash inside of our hearts, that we're mevatel ourselves to Hashem, and Hashem comes out, and when we learn Torah, we're further mevatel ourselves to Hashem, and Hashem comes out to us. But the physical act of the korbanos has to be in the bias, because you need a bias for it. There's the hidden levels of Hashem that are still connected with us, and then there's a level that's even higher, it's even more hidden. And so too, you have the Torah, which is Torah's chabseich me'ai. That is food that goes into a person. And that enlightens a person. Then you have mitzvahs, which are higher than a level of Hashem that's higher than being able to come into the person, but it surrounds the person. So the effect is less, but it surrounds them. And these mitzvahs are like clothing. Clothing surrounds a person, but it still is measured to the person's height and the person's shape and everything. But then you have a house. And a house is higher than being measured to the person. It doesn't matter if the person is 5 foot tall or if the person is wide. The house could be tall and narrow. So too you have a level that is above any connection to the world, and that is symbolized by the bias. And that's why the actual physical act of the korbanos had to take place in the Beis HaMikdash. And the actual act of bringing the korban within ourselves brings out a level that's higher than Hashem's connection with the world, a much higher level of Hashem. And this level of giving oneself over to Hashem and also learning Torah in a way where one gives oneself over to Hashem's desire and wants to learn. That's why halachas are especially important to learn today, because we're learning what's Hashem's desire in the world. And that brings out a level of Hashem that's above the worlds, and that makes for Hashem to come out into this world, brings Mashiach, and brings the time where Hashem's desire will come out truly, that again we'll have the Beis HaMikdash and we'll be able to bring the korbanos in the way that Hashem wants. A good day of Shabbos, and may we have Mashiach now.